Could you just give us your overall impression of your experience at the Cherry Tree Young Writers Conference?
Of course. Going to Cherry Tree Writers Conference was a very marvelous experience as a writer, especially because beforehand I had been going through a period where I didn't really have inspiration for writing any pieces. It was more just I was focused on doing work for school and doing essays, doing all the busy work that I needed to get through my classes, that I didn't have time to truly sit down and write something for myself. But Cherry Tree gave me that opportunity to do that. I was in the poetry workshop, and there was multiple workshops, one for journalism, two for fiction, but I was in poetry. And every day we would go in and we would have a lovely class all sitting around in a circle, and we would be artists sharing our words and our works together. We wrote tons of haikus and stuff, and every day we had the ability to share them with one another. And that honestly, that small exercise of sharing between creators was very helpful in just revitalizing my passion for writing. And the conference itself actually designated time for writers to actually write stuff. So in the mornings and in the afternoons after, meal times, we would go back to our dorms and have times where we could just focus on our work. And it could be whatever, really. Perhaps a passion project we were bringing in, perhaps something we were writing for the conference, and we just got time to work on it. And we could work with other students as well. We could visit between dorm rooms, go outside to like the garden or something like that. But we were encouraged to work with other people and share our work between them. And at the very end of the conference itself, all participants were able to share something they had written for like a minute or two, like in front of everyone. And that was just a very lovely experience. Like the amount of cheering everyone got at the end was very confidence boosting.
So it was a supportive environment?
Very much so. Like, I know I got pulled aside from multiple other students like I had never talked to before, and was asked to share my work, really, and just go do small events on the campus and just bond with people. Like, aside from writing itself, it's such a good bonding experience. Like, they had tons of events, like game night one day, trivia for like various literature, and I was very happy with that. I actually won once, all because I knew about Mary Shelley. Yeah, yes. And there was also like a movie night, so everyone would go into like this big theater, and you would all be next to each other, have some popcorn and like other treats, and we watched The Princess Bride. So like, I think that's what they usually do. Like, there's little events across the whole campus where it's just good bonding experience for everyone overall.
Yeah, I'm just curious, is there anything like either a skill that was developed or anything relating to the conference that you feel you would take with you into your college years?
Something that I would take into my college years, skill-wise, is probably my word choice. For the whole conference, I set myself a challenge of only writing on paper, not on technology or anything like that. I would just, have something in front of me that I could physically see, and I could physically look at the words in front of me, see how much space they took up. And it made me much more conscious of my word choice. I wasn't just putting stuff on paper to just fill space. Like, I was really focusing on what each word meant in like the given context. And the person who actually ran the section I was in, Miss Marcy, really put an emphasis on that of word placements, word purpose, and line breaks in like poetry, and how a simple breaking of a line can have such a huge impact with how it's read, because it can separate a thought itself, or it could just put so much emphasis on that one idea. So I think the reason I put a word down on page and where I place it, I think I'll be much more conscious of that.
It sounds like you became almost more mindful and focused as far as your own writing.
No, I definitely became much more mindful of what I was writing, because I've always written, like, ever since a young age. I think My first ever story was in kindergarten, where I sat down, wrote a short story. The grammar was terrible, the writing was terrible. But was it a story? Yes. And ever since that, I've been hooked on writing, even making my parents write down my rambling ideas from a very young age when I was too young to fully write down this just the list of stuff that came to mind. So I've always been a passionate writer, and I think having experience dedicated just to writing, well, with the social events included, but just having something where you go away from home for overnight just to have a few 4 days of writing, it really helped me be mindful because I wasn't focused on anything else but what was happening at the present moment. And it helped me be more mindful about my writing and just why I write in general. So it's been very useful.
I'm curious about too, like what were your impressions of? It sounds like the sort of curriculum, the instructors were great, but how about your overall impression of Washington College and the environment, the physical environment where you were? It's also an Eastern Shore college, which is great.
Aside from the grueling heat every day, because it was a hot time when we were there, it was a very lovely campus in general, and it was nice to be in the space with everyone. Like, the Literature House was one of the most pretty places I have ever been, especially we would have our meetings where like a professor would be giving a talk or some of the students would be giving a presentation. You would be on the porch and have a nice view of the street and like the lawn before you. And there was also the printing press room in the Literature House, full of like very, very old, like hundreds of years old printing presses. And we actually got demonstrations of that, so, which is such a unique thing I have not seen on any other campus, really. That like piece of history presented to the students, like very promptly on display. And
Yeah, the letterpress, like locking up the forms with the letters.
yes, like
that's amazing.
as someone who has looked into that, I'm just so surprised that they have that on display and like actively participate the kids to look at and explore. So I think that was a marvelous thing.
Going up there too, one thing that impressed me, what you mentioned about the house, the O'Neill Literary House, it almost has like a clubhouse feel, like it doesn't feel like your typical college environment necessarily, like a classroom. It's not generic. It's not.
No, it very much had that clubhouse vibe, and that's why I think most of the activities were centered in that space, because it felt more, open almost, like where people could just get in their own little corner and just share ideas, and it just promoted the sharing, I think. Like the openness of the space led to the openness of ideas being shared between people, and I think that was a lovely thing that happened.
Can I ask you real quick, just, how did you hear, did you know of the Cherry Tree Writers Conference before this? How did you hear about the conference and also the CACE scholarship?
Oh, so I have always lived in the area of Chestertown and Washington College, though I recently moved here. And I believe, though I do not remember a single bit of it, I swear I have done the writing conference before, actually, when I was much younger. But my parents both went to Washington College. That's where they met. So I've always had this connection to the college. I've been there before for other events. So that's how I learned of the writing conference itself. And I don't remember actually how I learned of the scholarship. I think it was partially me and my mom were looking around for scholarships for the conference itself, and we stumbled across it. So I think it was pure chance that happened. I don't remember fully how.
Serendipity. Devontae, anything come to mind?
This is amazing. I'm loving every bit of it. You know what? I do have one question. So an associate professor reached out to us and they told us that, one, you were delightful and that you were wordsmithy. When did you discover or feel the power of words words and language and poetry and choices when it comes to how they make people feel, or it, that's such a compliment, and I just would like to know a little bit more about you in that aspect.
Ooh, that's a difficult question because I have always been passionate about my words because my mother used to be a librarian at my old school, and she's always instilled in me this love of reading, this love of words, and the magic of words itself. The stories that words can take you, like the lives it can take you into, because I don't know, words just have the power to bring the words off the story off the page into real life, almost to bring you into the story, to have you see through the thoughts, the eyes of other characters, other people who may be so different from yourself. And it's sort of a way to just bring more connectedness in the world, almost. Like, words have such power, like positive, negative, and I've always been inspired by that, really. The fact that words can truly change how you look at the world. That's why I've been so passionate about it, and storytelling. I've always taken classes on writing stories. Like, I wrote a novella once for my 8th grade writing contest. The shortest story afterwards was 16 pages, so I just wrote 102 pages for fun. As I said, I wrote stories since I was like 6 years old in kindergarten. Every year I would be writing stories afterwards to share with my class, and the laughter it brought between my friends, just seeing my silly stories be read, and just the joy it brought really inspired me. And since then I've expanded to, other things. I've explored comedy through playwriting and stuff like that. Poetry, of course. I took a lovely creative writing class at my school, which really inspired my poetry, because with poetry, weirdly enough, you do not always have to be as clear with your message. You can leave it up to interpretation, which I always like as the reader of it, where it forces you to think almost about what the meaning of this all is. I think that's what drew me to the poetry class of all things, and why I was so focused on that, because it forced me to be wordsmithy almost, like to be conscious of my words in an art form where your meaning does not have to be explicitly clear. Just having this space where you have to think about the words and can be more, expressive with them, and have such simple things mean such vastly different. Have such simple things mean something so vastly different. Like that really inspired me, I think.
Well, cool. I mean, it's been fantastic. Can I ask you one final thing that comes to mind? If truly you feel this way, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but could you just say something simply to wrap up, if something along the lines of like the Choptank Arts Scholarship allowed me
Yes.
to, fill in whatever.
Yeah. I think the Choptank Arts Scholarship really helped me find a space where I could share my work with other people and get the support I needed from like friends and, teachers alike. Like, we had exercises where we could just sit down and focus on a medium, learn about different techniques, and just exercises which forced me to think about my art in a different way and be more conscientious of just small things and what a word truly means, which was very powerful. And it allowed me to make connections with people. Like, I met a few friends there that were very interested in my work, and also just very lovely people. The scholarship allowed me to make friends, which I'm still in contact with, like even after a few weeks, and I think we'll be in contact with for a good long while. It brings artists together to truly focus on their work, but also just grow as a community, and I think that was what struck me the most and was very powerful.